Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. This show is going to have a lot of disclaimers, but stick with me, you'll see where I'm going and how we had to get there. The R.I.D.E program is starting up soon. Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere, or whatever they call it in your province or state. Basically, it's a month-long program that sets up traffic stops to make sure everybody driving is driving legal and sober. Now, let me first start off by saying the Silverlight Show in no way condones drunk driving. The Silverlight Show wants people to drink responsibly. If you're going out and with a friend and, have one of you drive if one of you is drinking, or better yet, learn how to limit yourself. It's not very hard to say no. I like a glass of wine with my meal, just like anybody else. I like to drink beer. I like a little bit of whiskey, but the second my lips touch alcohol, my keys go away. My phone goes away too, because that's just self-defense there. Bad things happen when you have a phone and the internet and alcohol. That all being said, I've done some hardcore digging on the Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere program, and my goodness, it's a lot of money going in for very little. Let's start with the figures. The Greater Toronto Area, I'm picking on this because it's the biggest city by far in Canada, and the biggest region, and it gets the lion's share of the money, which is about $48 million, to set up 1 month worth of police roadblocks and check cars every single year. Do you know how many arrests were made for that $48 million investment? 1,107 in 2019. I didn't look at the 2020 statistics because the pandemic kind of screwed everything up. But we're spending $48 million to arrest 1,000 people, from roughly 6 to 7 million, depending on which source that you consider in the GTA. That's an incredible investment for what you get out of it. Now, admittedly, saving a life is a good thing. And I believe Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere does save lives. We'll get to that in a second, though. When police stop you at a R.I.D.E checkpoint, now I've personally never had any problems. I've always been sober. Like, not even having had a single cocktail or anything in my system. For some reason, police grab me when I'm 100% sober. Nothing in me at all. And I never drink and drive. Maybe if I'm going over to a friend's, I'll have a beer with them after an hour or two, then I'll start making my way home. That's just logical. And I think that's a level most people should be familiar with. You should know how one glass of alcohol affects you, whether it gives you a light buzz or it makes you feel sluggish. You should wait an hour and get rid of it, or even stay over. There's so many alternatives to drinking and driving, and in 2021, everybody knows the damage it can cause. So when I'm talking about $48 million being invested and 1,107 people being arrested, yes, if it stops the repeat offenders, that is a good thing. Because the repeat offenders are the ones that are going to drive with 10 beers in their system and think, oh, I made it home the last 10 times, and they're the ones that wind up wiping out a busload of children. The problem is the police don't take any of that consideration. That 1,107 number is actually an inflation, because they do a simple field sobriety test. They make you walk the line, they make you touch your nose with your eyes closed, and they make you breathe into that little tube. The tube is what makes it happen for you. If you're above there's legal, there's caution, and there's this person is intoxicated. I've never actually blown into the machine, so I can't tell you. I can only tell you what I've been told. But I can tell you the police are not allowed to make a judgment call. So part of that 1,107 are people that are on the border caution line that are right there. And the police are actually not allowed to interpret anything. They're told to make the arrest and let the court sort it out. So that 1,107 people arrested for $48 million in a month-long program, let's say 50% of them are people that are going to get off on a technicality. So we've really only got maximum 600 people that are going to get anything. Now, once again, we start to get into the legal system here. Of those people, how many are going to get community service and how many are repeat offenders that deserve to be taken off the road? Probably not a lot. Now, the system is going to scare people straight. I grant that. And, scaring somebody straight is a definite benefit. Again, if it can prevent a death, I'm all for spending money. But what I don't like is how ridiculously primitive and inefficient that our system is. Look at it. We're setting up checkpoints. Checkpoints is what they did in the 1940s, and probably I could trace it back further in time, but you look at any World War II film, whether it's in Russia or Germany or anywhere, and they show you with the checkpoints and the officer coming up, papers, please. And that's what the police are doing. They're saying, can I have your driver's license, your registration, insurance? And then they're trying to smell what's on your breath. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Standard questions. But it's literally the exact same thing. The problem is, we don't live in the 1980s. We live in 2021. Now, we do have the technology to outfit cars with that breathalyzer thing where you have to breathe into it before you start the car. That works for, again, the problem children, the 10% who are going to screw everything up no matter what. And that's the same with anything. The people who do drugs and drive, the people who, do not have a license and drive, those are the ones we need to catch. But we're using basically fishing net idea. You got to cast out enough nets and you're going to get some people. Again, this 1930s logic. As a matter of fact, it might be 20,000 years ago logic with the fishing net. You only get the ones that you look for. I'm not sure on the legality of this everywhere, but it would be worth looking into to have some sort of application on your phone. Insurance companies do this already, and they monitor how much you drive, how much you're revving and speeding and stuff like that. I used to have the app because the company that I used to be with wanted it, and I thought it was a nice app because it let me evaluate my own driving. Everybody thinks they're a safe driver, but this provides real-time data, and I was loving it. I was safer than I thought I was, but at the same token, I wasn't perfect. This is not a perfect solution because people will just turn off their phone, disable the app, etc. But we still do have way better resources. We've got traffic cameras all over the place that are supposedly dedicated to speed only or to monitor going through stoplights. I think nobody would have a problem if these things were modified so that somebody was watching them saying, hey, that Corvette down there on Main Street, because practically every city has a Main Street, seems to be swerving around a lot. Well, we've got his license plate. We'll tell an officer to check them out. The technology is there to do so much better, but we're not using it. We're still plodding along with this ridiculous 20th century approach. And the funny part is, the drunks know it. The people that you're trying to catch know it's out there. They know from now until January 1st, the police are going to be buzzing like hornets. So either they adapt by not going out as much, or they just stop drinking and driving for a month or so, then start again on January 2nd. We need better tools for the police. And I hate to argue for this because there's already a culture that's against police having more power. And indeed, the police have repeatedly shown that they are willing to abuse said power. But if we're really serious about reducing impaired driving, which I think is a laudable goal and is something that we should concentrate on, we need to develop our techniques and our technology. We don't need these roadblocks. I mean, have you ever seen them? They're usually in places where you can't turn around and get out of. So if you avoid the major roads, you can probably avoid most traffic stops. And the cops know that too. My favorite one, I used to go to work fairly late at night. And, in the morning actually. And there was a a strip bar that I passed. And every night there was a cop there, and I used to have a little fun to see whether the cop would just sit there, and as soon as the patrons would start pulling out, he'd start pulling them over. And he'd go up and down, I don't know whether he was drug testing them or drunk testing them, whatever he was doing, but that police officer was being smart. So we still do have the capability of stopping individuals and finding things out. I'm not saying let's take away this dragnet. I'm saying it's 2021, nearly 2022. We have brilliant programmers. And if any of you is looking for something to create, this would be it. I'm sure the government would buy it in a heartbeat because it'll probably be cheaper than $48 million for 1,000 arrests, which then costs more in court costs and lawyers, etc., etc. And while we're probably never going to completely get rid of police dragnets, the fact is we can do a lot better. The trick about drinking and driving is to stop it before it takes place. And that's the same with doing drugs and driving, because drugs impair you just as much as drinking, if not more. But we need to learn how to do it better. The old ways work, but we're not still sitting here with a group of people calculating what is, the explosive rate of an atomic bomb. We have computers for that. And now we have the opportunity to make the computers work to help save lives. It's all within our grasp. It's something we should be doing. Let's abandon this ancient method or use it sparingly and assign the officers to really target individuals who are suspicious or who are breaking actual laws. Now, this is a hard thing to do. I never said it was easy. I don't even have a plan aside from, hey, maybe we can use the phones people have and the insurance apps and let people monitor them. People are going to complain, oh, you're reducing my freedom. But remember, driving is a privilege, not a right. And one of the prices of that privilege is making sure you're sober, or at least able to control yourself. Again, I got no problem. You're going out with buddies, you're watching the game, you have one beer in a matter of a couple hours to wash down your chicken wings with. No issue with those guys. It's the ones that go to 2, 3, and 4 beers. Those are the ones that we all need to have off the road. This would be the most sensible thing to pursue going forward, a new way of doing what we've always done. Because $48 million for 1,107 arrests is simply unacceptable. I mean, just work those two numbers into each other. So we have a perfectly good program, Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere, that costs a lot of money, and the money is worth it in the sense that it saves lives, but we could be using it more efficiently. And that's really the point that Silverlight wanted to make. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and we hope you have a fantastic day.